Arise. You just got the power to call back any creature of your choice from death, but the person you value most is stuck in an incurable eternal slumber. What do? You would have to fight off a wicked ice elf, secretly protect a bunch of weak hunters, and survive a dangerous dungeon all by yourself, and fight off a freakishly strong monster ant king just to craft the perfect healing potion. Today I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the ant invasion in Solo Leveling Season 2. When we last saw our boy, Jin Woo, he just became a super badass called the Shadow Monarch, and he's ready to flex his muscles in a dungeon because why not? Before heading to a dungeon, he goes to his sister, Jin Ah's school, because he is our only surviving parent. Jin Woo arrives at school and causes all the girls to go ooh and ah, but Jin Ah is so shocked by how much his body's changed that she's starting to doubt if he's really her brother. After discussing with her homeroom teacher, Sensei has an odd request for our boy Jin Woo, and it has something to do with Jin Ah's classmate. Sensei wants Jin Woo to stop her from going on dangerous raids and focus on her studies, but little girl here's determined to be a hunter. Meanwhile, at the airport, trouble is brewing for our boy Jin Woo because an S-ranked hunter named Huang Dong-su is here to kill him. Revenge for killing his brother in a dungeon. Technically though, it was self-defense, but S-rank here doesn't care. And that's not the only problem. This red-haired guild captain meets up with this old man to give him some bad news. The monster ants they've been tracking for a while have evolved and are now able to fly. Elsewhere, Jin Woo takes our little deviant to a C-ranked dungeon gate, and of course there's no better way to learn than by doing. But Kim Chol, the head of the exploration team, looks like a royal douchebag, but not like Jin Woo cares. As soon as they step in, Jin Woo notices that something is wrong. He tries to get our little girl out, but the gate is already closing, and it has turned red. He rushes to the entrance and sticks his head out like a sore thumb before telling the observers outside to contact the Hunter Association if they can't get them out, or they're all gonna be massacred. Great, that's just great. One minute you're going sightseeing, playing chaperone, and the next, you're stuck in a life or death situation. Of course, we all know that Jin Woo's just gonna be fine. So, if I were in his shoes, I would start by simply saying no to the teacher's request. Jin Woo would never be in this situation if it weren't for the teacher and her request. Sure, she would think of me as a royal douche, a proud, arrogant dude, but I don't care. My only concern in school is Jin Ah, and thankfully the teacher herself already said that Jin Ah is at the top of her class and keeping up just fine grade-wise. I already have the responsibility of looking out for myself and my sister. And let's not forget my ailing mother. There's absolutely no way I'm going to take any more responsibility for free, especially not responsibility for another hunter. She's an E-ranked hunter, and Jin Woo, yes, technically also an E-ranked hunter, but he's not like the rest. He's stronger than all of them and he knows it, and if I'm him, I should have taken more responsibilities. He knew the risks while going into a dungeon, and those are risks that honestly, the girl also should be willing to embrace if she'd chosen to live on the hunter's side of life. So yeah, from the get-go, I'm gonna say no to the request. But guess what? I'm Jin Woo, I'm a nice dude. And here's what caused the second mistake. It was deciding to throw her directly into a dungeon. Of all people, Jin Woo knows how dangerous and unpredictable dungeons can be. He almost lost his life in a double dungeon. Keeping that in mind, my first choice, I'm going to invoke the ancient and almost forgotten art of Talk no Jutsu. I'll bring in some stats, graphs, maps, all the data stuff, and show just how many powerful hunters get swept to death in a month because of dungeon raids. Nothing shakes up youngsters more than the reality of death. Now, when little Missy here gets to know just how dangerous the hunter business is, I'm pretty sure she's gonna start thinking twice about throwing away her academic career away. So what I'm gonna try to do is scare her with all the numbers, with all the information that I can get, to avoid the possibility of taking her into a dungeon, because you never know what could happen once you go in. That's how you talk to a wannabe hunter. But what does Jin Woo decide to do? He decides to skip intervention and just go straight into the fire. And that's how he got stuck in this situation, and hopefully no one dies because of his bad choices. When he opens his eyes, Jin Woo finds himself in an ice village and explains to Little Miss that they are in a red gate, a gate that is cut off from the outside world, and the only way to get back is to defeat the dungeon boss. But before he can complete the explanation, ice arrows start flying, and he reacts just in time to save our little deviant. This other dude isn't so lucky, and he ends up with an arrow stuck in his head. Kim Chol springs into action immediately by pointing out that all the lower ranks are dead weight, and since they aren't going to survive anyways, he ditches them. Clearly this guy should get the award for the most sensitive captain of the year. He splits the team into two, leaving the deadbeat hunters with Jin Woo, who of course is a quote-unquote E-rank hunter. But Cutie Pie over here has sharper eyes than that, and she volunteers to join Jin Woo's camp. Kim Chol and his group run into a group of ice bears as soon as they leave Jin Woo, and despite his looks, Kim Chol is still an A-ranked hunter. He takes out the ice bears like he's slicing through butter. Jin Woo chooses the ice bear territory for his group as well, and they start enjoying the benefits of being with the main character almost immediately. First, he dips his hand into his invisible stash and grabs ice coats for everyone. When Jun's friend asks who he is, he makes the entire team take a vow of silence because, well, they're about to be initiated into the cult of awesomeness. Outside the gate, the captain here realizes he can't do anything from outside of it, but he gets his hopes up when one of the observers informs him that one of the people inside the gate is potentially reawakened. Before they can get to celebrating, a car pulls out, and out comes Hwang Dong-soo. He's come searching for our boy Jin Woo, but luckily Jin Woo is halfway across the Milky Way, stuck inside a gate. Inside, Jin Woo and his team build a campfire and enjoy some freshly grilled bear meat. With the team set up, Jin Woo goes to the bear cave to carve his name into their walls of ice. Using his shadow soldiers, he destroys all of the bears, and that's not even the best part. When the ice bear boss shows up and sends the rest of his shadow army packing, he sends his guardian knight Igris to do his dirty work, and he basically one-shots the poor ice bear because he's done before the monster even realizes what's happened. Unfortunately though, Kim Chol isn't having as much fun because he's run into the ice elves. While the rest of his party gets eliminated, Kim Chol gets ready to pull out his inner Captain America and face the army of ice elves all on his own. But of course, he does the more human thing and runs away like a little girl, leaving the rest of his teammates to die. Jin Woo resurrects the entire bear army, but outside of there, things are getting heated. Before leaving, Hunter Hwang decides to use some brains before brawn for the first time and asks why Jin Woo, who isn't affiliated with the White Tiger Guild, is participating in their raid. And then this unfortunate media guy gets caught lacking when he tries to give an unsatisfactory answer. So Hwang grabs him by the throat, and of course this makes Captain Tigerman pissed off. And as you expect, they get into a staring contest. Things get heated, and it looks like we're finally going to have our Clash of Titans remake, because these two hunters look like they're going to kill each other. Unfortunately, Mr. Secretary from the Hunters Association steps in just in time and flexes his aura by stopping both punches from S-rank hunters, despite being only an A rank. After running away like a sissy, Kim Chol, almost dying from depression, runs into the corpse of the bears that Jin Woo destroyed earlier, and his eyes cannot believe what he's seeing. It gets even worse for him when he stumbles into the happy little camp set up by Jin Woo's group, and there's food everywhere, mouth-watering meat and a warm fire, while he's been battling tooth and nail just to survive since they split up, and he loses his mind, and he decides to attack our poor defenseless little nobodies. Of course, that's his worst mistake. No one's hurting the little kids, with Uncle Jin Woo nearby, and he shows up just in time to bitch slap the taste out of Kim Chol's mouth. But the only problem with weak folk like Kim Chol is that they always bring extra trouble with them. And it turns out the ice elves are already joining the party, being all sneaky like ninjas. Not that it mattered to Jin Woo, because he could already sense their bloodlust. When the ice elf boss shows up, we learn that our boy Jin Woo can understand ancient monster language. While Elf Prince is running his mouth, Jin Woo makes quick work of this no-named side character. Elf Prince here tells Jin Woo that since he's not human, he should hand over the human livestock behind him for a proper killing. But when Jin Woo tries to sneak out some more information from the yapping prince, the system overrides him, negotiations break down, and Jin Woo does what any logical person would do. He summons his army to do his dirty work again, but this time he joins the fight, because Elf Prince, he can tell, is too strong for his soldiers or any of his teammates to fight. And after clashing blades with the Elf Prince, Jin Woo realizes that even Igris supporting him, it'll be a hard battle. So our boy does the next best thing. He sees Kim Chol attacking him, so he kills Kim Chol, extracts his soul, and names him Iron, and adds him to his soldier's rank. And because Kim Chol was strong while alive, he becomes a high-ranked soldier as well. Elf Prince takes on Iron, and Igris and Jin Woo all at the same time. And at this point, maybe the only thing keeping our boy alive is main character armor. And Jin Woo catches Elf Prince lacking and stabs him, but is not a vital hit. What Elf Prince though doesn't realize is that Jin Woo is setting an elaborate plan. Iron attacks and grabs Elf Prince just before Jin Woo's mages set both of them on fire. The Elf Prince gets pissed off, but what he doesn't know is that Jin Woo is already in stealth mode, and Jin Woo stabs him in his belly. Elf Prince thinks Jin Woo's missed the perfect opportunity to finish him off, but but Jin Woo simply steps aside and lets Iron turns his brains into scrambled eggs with his hammer. And just like that, the battle is over. Jin Woo heads out of the gate with the rest of the team, the sole survivors of the Red Gate. But when he gets out, Captain Tigerman is pissed that Jin Woo returned, but his promising A-rank soldier got left in the dust. When he tries to question Jin Woo, he gets the ice-cold stare from our boy. It turns out that Jin Woo was just mad that he couldn't make the elf prince into a shadow monster to serve him. But Jinna's friend, who was the cause of this whole mess, still hasn't learned anything. Instead, she thinks Jin Woo is just gonna be there to protect her for all time. What an idiot. The next day, Jin Ho over here joins Jin Woo for a dungeon raid, but he's shocked at just how useless he really is, because Jin Woo's shadow summons do all the work. I mean, all the work. When they finish, they head down to a restaurant for some grilled meat. And then they exchange the sake of brotherhood, and Jin Woo officially takes Jin Ho as his kid brother. While they enjoy their meal, there's trouble in the American Hunters Association. This guy shows up out of nowhere, claiming to be a foreign hunter who got trapped in a gate years ago. He just got out, and he's eager to go home. But since the Americans don't understand his language, they call on an all-too-eager S-rank hunter to be their interpreter, Huang Dong-Su. And they're soon gonna find out how much of a mistake that is, because our strange-looking foreign hunter's name is Il Huang Sun. Jin Woo heads out early in the morning to take on his new dungeon quest. And despite how strong our guy is, he still has a human heart, and all that heart really wants to see is his mother wake up from the eternal slumber. He takes a look at the requirements that he needs to fetch in the dungeon and gets ready for another round of slice and dice. Back at home, Jin Ho confronts his father because he wants to become the leader of his guild. His father tells him that his secret relationship with Jin Woo is out of the bag. Everyone knows. And instead, giving Jin Ho ownership of his guild, he tells his son to recruit Jin Woo to join it. If he succeeds, he'll get the guild, and if he doesn't, it's goodbye to the chairman position forever. In the dungeon, Jin Woo gets a scroll to lead him to the next floor of the dungeon, and then he summons the Ice Bear leader to become his horse, and the tank literally bulldozes through hundreds of enemies. As he continues battling from level to level, there's only one question on Jin Woo's mind. How strong can he get by the time he's done with the 100 floors in this dungeon? But then things get real when the boss on the 50th level, this red giant, suddenly appears in front of Jin Woo. Despite his large body, he's fast. But the real surprise is that how far this monster flies when Jin Woo lands a punch on it. He had no idea how strong he had become by leveling up through the different stages of the dungeon. And when he realizes that the monster has some basic level of combat intelligence, he changes tactics and he uses a building to restrict the monster's movements. And in one of the most badass slashes in this dungeon, he kills it in one strike. Huang Dong-Su goes on to be a total douchebag to the strange foreigner, but this guy's not intimidated by Huang being an S-rank at all. He's more interested in finding out what humanity has learned about monsters, and they talk for a bit, and Il Huang here reveals that he has a son named Jin Woo, and that's all that Hunter Huang needs to move from mere douche to an absolute douchebag pro max. He tells Il Huang to forget about Jin Woo because he's dead. But, as you expect of any normal father except superpowered, he lashes out at Huang Dong-Su, and in a split second, Huang is covered in blood and beaten to a pulp. He's so beat up that he can't even lift up his head despite being an S rank. I would like to say I feel bad for Huang Dong-Su, but I'm not. That being said, considering the amount of damage done to the lives and the property of all the people around, we could have managed this situation better in order to protect them. For starters, the American Hunters Association didn't take Hunter Huang's erratic nature into consideration. Most people are divided into introverts and extroverts, and from what we've seen, Huang is an extroverted extrovert, and more than others, he has a knack for causing troubles. This basic information alone should be relevant in determining how we treat anything that has to do with him. For instance, we're not going to invite Hunter Huang, an S-rank hunter, to carry out this menial task like interpretation. There's a reason why we have interpreters. And before we get started on how dangerous the dude is that popped up out of nowhere, it doesn't change anything. If they got actual interpreters for the job, they could have gathered a whole bunch of S-rank hunters outside of the interview hall. That way, they could have a proper interview with the man, while ensuring the safety of the lives and the property of everyone here. With a bunch of S-ranked hunters outside the room, Il Huang should be able to sense their presence, because he seems to know a thing or two about gates. Just from looking at him, you can tell that he's quite capable. And knowing that there are that many people on the ground to checkmate your excuses, no matter how strong he is, he would be more careful to attack all of them at the same time. Also, our boy Huang Dong-Su can't escape liability for his stupidity. Sure, he's proud, but just because a lion and a rabbit live in the same jungle doesn't mean the rabbit considers itself equal to the lion. We've seen Jin Woo do it with all the creatures that he's fought. As soon as he steps in their space, you can tell if he's strong enough or if they're too good for him. There's no way Huang didn't realize this man sitting across from him was too strong for him to face on his own. But the minute I realize his aura is greater than mine, I'm gonna back it up and call for backup. That's how you deal with a beast. Meanwhile, Jin Woo has been on a collecting spree. He's basically gone murder shopping in this demon dungeon and reviews all the items that he's picked up so far, including this strange demon key. With his eyes fixated on his real goal for his mom, he's gathered 2 out of the 3 items that he needs. And at this point, Jin Woo can tell that from this floor on, things are going to get harder, so he starts to ready himself mentally. With the items he's gotten, Jin Woo returns to the real world. But as soon as he arrives, he decides that the first thing he must do is get a reassessment. Despite how awesome our guy is, he still is technically an E-ranked hunter, and that's going to make things more difficult for him to move around and do what he needs to do. So the next day, he heads down to the Korean Hunter Association, and as soon as he arrives, one of the scouts from the White Tiger Guild calls his boss and snitches on Jin Woo. Inside the testing hall though, Jin Woo finds himself facing a new challenge. The system keeps showing up an error message whenever he tries to do the test. As a result, this older hunter tester joins the mix to figure out what's wrong. As soon as he sees the message, he knows what's going on, and he informs the rookie tester that the reason the error message is showing is because our boy over here is too strong for their weak system to compute his power levels. And from that alone, Jin Woo jumps from E to S freaking rank. This red-haired dude named Choi Jong-in decides to join the Hunters Association secretary to the reevaluation center because of all the ruckus, and inside the evaluator tells Jin Woo to come back in 3 days for a reassessment. Jong-in immediately tries to get a slice of the pie by offering Jin Woo a slot at his guild, but Jin Woo simply ignores him and walks away. When Captain Tiger arrives, Jin Woo is already gone. Instead, he heads down to the hospital to see his mom, but when he gets up to leave, Mr. Secretary is there and he's not alone. In the deep darkness of the corridor, this old man shows up to have a meeting. And just like every old man in a profession where people die young, this dude is an actual badass. He's the chairman of the Hunters Association of Korea, Go Gung-hee. When they sit down, Gung-hee offers Jin Woo a position in the Hunters Association, but Jin Woo refuses. He says that he cannot become a member of the association because he wants to spend time in dungeons fighting monsters. And that line alone was so compelling that even the old chairman's heart starts pumping for battle again. We then see Hwang Dong-soo wake up in the hospital, but when his boss comes to ask him for the truth about what happened, he avoids the question. Hunter Hwang is a sore loser, and although Il Hwan warned him to stay away from his family, he's already cooking up a plan for the rematch, and has something to do with artifacts, items that increase the specs and stats and abilities of hunters. Passing the time while waiting for his reevaluation, Jin Woo joins a raid team, but he decides to enter as a miner because Jin Woo wants to enjoy his last few days as an E-rank hunter. The strike team enters the dungeon first, led by red-haired Choi Jong-in, and in less than 2 minutes he's already eradicated almost all the monsters in the dungeon. He comes out with his team and lets the miners do their job, but before they step in, this beautiful Hunter Cha Hae-in, almost senses Jin Woo's monstrous powers. Jin Woo notices this and goes into hiding before she can spot him. When the team goes in, some miners try to pick on Jin Woo because he's registered as an E rank, but one look at this doofus lets him know not to mess around with our boy. When everyone goes on break, Jin Woo runs into the dungeon to get a sneak peek at the dungeon boss. And just when he materializes his knife to poke at the boss a little bit, Hunter Cha Hae-in shows up behind him. Cha Hae-in stops Jin Woo from doing something stupid, but as soon as he walks past her, she notices that he doesn't have the usual stench that all hunters have. After sniffing our boy for a bit, we can all basically agree that she falls in love with him right then and there. Okay, I'm kidding. At the end of the day, the mining boss gives Jin Woo his pay, but he also offers Jin Woo permanent employment as a miner. Jin Woo politely turns down the offer, and this dude modifies it by telling Jin Woo to follow them for one more raid the next day. This decision would be the only reason why this party returns alive, but they don't know it yet. Back home, Hunter Cha Hae-in tries to stalk Jin Woo, but the Hunters Association has his information under lock and key, and the next day they head into a C-ranked dungeon. But thanks to Jin Woo's strength as a miner, they finish their collection job early, and everything's going fine until Hunter Song Ki-hoon shows up. He's the captain of the A-ranked dungeon raid, the second raid the guild is carrying out that same day. And unfortunately, his equipment carrier didn't show up, so he came to loan someone from the mining team. Although the mining team declines the offer on behalf of his group, Jin Woo jumps at it and agrees to help him. And despite how dangerous A-ranked dungeons are, Ki-hoon gladly accepts his help, and they head into the dungeon. Jin Woo rates the entire second hunting team, and he's impressed by how strong Red Hair's hunter guild is. As soon as they enter, Jin Woo can tell that something is off about this gate. However, it doesn't immediately turn into a red gate like before, so he brushes it off. off. But that's when the first set of monsters show up, dungeon jackals. Although the team takes care of them easily, they realize there's more at play because the jackals have collars on them. The real enemies are going to show up very soon, and their odds of survival drop by 80%. A group of red orcs get ready to rampage, and although the first hunting team is strong, they find themselves losing in a matter of seconds. Captain Gi-hoon has a hard time facing off against one of the monsters, but he still does his duty as a captain and barks out orders to everyone else. And then this cutie, the team's healer, restores one of the hunter's arms, but she gets caught lacking as an orc appears behind her, ready to squash her like a bug. But somehow, instead of squashing her, the orc suddenly gets divided into two from its neck, and at the same time the battle gets easier for all of the other losing members of the hunting party. Wounds appear all over the monsters in multiple areas and very quickly too, making it easy for the team members to deal with the orcs, and all of this is happening because Jin Woo, using stealth mode, rescued all of these weaklings. When the battle is over, the team starts wondering why the fight suddenly got easier. Nerd Girl here knows that it was Jin Woo helping him, but she does the smart thing and keeps her mouth shut. And they take a moment to decide what to do next. After seeing the kind of opponents they're up against, Gi-hoon does the honorable thing by calling for a tactical retreat. The only problem was that he took too long to decide, because just when they're about to leave, they run into a magical barrier. Nerd Girl tries to dismantle it, and they feel a wave of magical power so strong that even Jin Woo gets concerned. As soon as the magicians on the team try to dismantle the barrier, they all get struck by a powerful curse. At the same time, a group of powerful orcs, much stronger than the ones they faced, shows up. One introduces himself as Kargalan and tells our hunters that he would like to meet with them, and Gi-hoon decides that his team would meet with Kargalan, but he tells Jin Woo to look for a chance to run because he's only E rank. The other hunters accept their fate and give their last wishes to Jin Woo to take back to their family. The orc leads them to a large hall filled with way too many orcs to count. But the real problem is that the big bad boss sitting on the throne, the orc master of curses, Kargalan, outside our nosy cutie pie hunter Cha, has come snooping around for Jin Woo again. But when she learns that he's inside an A-rank dungeon, she grabs the closest thing to a weapon that she can find, an axe, and heads into the dungeon. And inside, the situation's gone worse. Gi-hoon here planned to take out the dungeon boss for the sake of fulfilling his duty to close the dungeon, but standing before Kargalan, Gi-hoon and his team realize just how powerless they are. The Monster King tells them that they're worthless as enemies, so they've been brought to his chambers to be killed as entertainment. It must really suck to be these guys, because they're all wondering where it went wrong. Well, for starters, the only way to survive this situation is to make sure the chance never occurs in the first place. Because you gotta do something that every true battle tactician does: scouting. The problem with our current hunter association and the hunting world in general is they leave too many things to chance. In an age of modern tech, there's no reason why there have been no remotely controlled drones patrolling the inside of the dungeons. With the possibility of double dungeons now on the loose, we should do everything in our power to make sure that every hunter is safe. And this means using surveillance drones to draw out a map of the dungeons to be invaded, and to scout for the kind of monsters that are within a given dungeon. This would protect teams, like our now unfortunate secondary team, from falling into unfortunate circumstances like this. And for this team in particular, the second mistake was going into the dungeon with no means of communication. And sure, while our local area networks might not have coverage inside dungeons, because dungeons are from another world, the exploration of other planets across the globe provides with some good insight. For instance, in studying Mars, scientists make use of robotic explorers like rovers and orbiters to capture and transmit data and images back to Earth. And similarly, the Hunters Association could dedicate a bit of research to developing orbiters that would transmit audio-visual info within the dungeon to secure satellites, from which they can stream what is going on in real time. This way, a backup team could always be sent in to support the initial explorers if anything out of the ordinary happens. And of course, the last mistake was going into the dungeon without an S rank. I mean, when an A rank team went into their dungeon, they had 2 S rank hunters with them. Call me crazy, but if an S rank hunter needs S rank backup, then even if an A rank hunter wants to lead a team, an S rank babysitter should accompany the team. This way, we're always prepared for any unforeseen circumstances. And in this case, with an S rank hunter like Choi Jong-in and his fire, and even Hunter Cha Hae-in, the chances of survival increase drastically. Gi-hoon forces himself to charge at Kargalan, but it's pointless. His attack gets blocked, and then he gets the most traumatizing trashing in history, because Kargalan only uses one hand to lift him up off the ground and smashes him repeatedly into the ceiling. And just when he's about to fall to his death, Jin Woo snatches him midair and asks for permission to help them. Gi-hoon helplessly leaves the fate of his team in the hands of an E-rank hunter. In an act of total badassery, Jin Woo brings out his shadow army and gets ready for the battle with the orcs, and he uses a skill called Monarch's Domain to give his summons steroid level support juice. And once they're all beefed up, the battle starts, but this time Jin Woo doesn't sit on the side and he joins the fray and starts slashing like a battle-hungry killer, and the team is stunned by how strong their miner really is. Kargalan decides to attack after seeing Jin Woo's abilities. He had planned on weakening Jin Woo by killing all the summons until his magic completely empties out. The only problem is that Jin Woo has a potion for magic restoration stashed in his inventory, and he takes a bottle and drinks it, and immediately restores his magic powers. And then he takes it a step further with the word that we've all been waiting for: arise. He summons the dead orcs back to life, and for the first time, Kargalan realizes that the battle may not really be in his favor after all. But outside though, the association does a reevaluation of the gate, and they realize it is sadly a high end. A gate almost an S rank gate. Man, these guys are idiots. When Hunter Choi Jong-in learns of it, he calls for all available members of his guild to go on a rescue mission, and they have no idea the Hunter Cha Hae-in is already there, heading towards the rest of the exploration team. After watching the battle for a bit, Kargalan realizes that his army is losing the edge, and because he's a sore loser, he finally stands up from his throne to take her business personal. He attacks Jin Woo with poison, but that doesn't work, and instead Jin Woo pulls a full counter by bringing out his shadow magicians to use an orb and send some fire at Kargalan, which pisses him off, so he grows into a giant. But Jin Woo, still dealing with the trauma from the giants in the dungeon where he nearly died, causes a switch to flip in his head, and he goes into full-on beast mode, and he pokes out one of the giant's eyes and uses the chain in the dungeon as his assistant to tie up the monster. And with everyone watching, Jin Woo solo Kargalan to death and levels up in the process. Even Hunter Cha Hae-in is stunned. Dare I say she's even developing a crush. Anyway, Jin Woo totally disregards the presence of everyone around him and calls Kargalan back to life. And when he sees manager Woo from the association, that's when he remembers there was, an audience to all of it. But instead of getting nosy, Woo and the members of the Hunters Association do the honor guard protection for Jin Woo. Before escorting him out, Gi-hoon and the rest of his team thanks Jin Woo for saving him. And hearing all about Jin Woo's help, Hunter Choi Jong-in is more eager than ever to bring him into the Hunters Guild. But that's when Jin Woo heads out to meet his partner, Jin Ho. While Eamon Sung talks to the paparazzi, Jin Woo shows up for his reassessment, and this rude bodyguard decides to stop him from going in because he is interrupting Yi Sung's interview. But when the chairman of the association shows up to welcome Jin Woo himself, everyone knows something way more important is happening. Inside, Jin Woo shows the chairman a bit of what he can do with his summons, but his magic is so ominous that even the Captain Tiger and Hunter Jong-in feel threatened by it while they are far away. After waiting a few minutes, he gets his S-rank hunter license, and Song Jin Woo is officially ready for business, but he has no idea what is waiting for him at the door of the headquarters. Although both Captain Tiger and Hunter Jong-in try to warn him, he ignores them and opens the door. As soon as the door opens, all of Eamon Sung's paparazzi and reporters abandon him for the fresh scoop, the 10th S-rank hunter in Korea. After escaping the floodlights, he heads down to a gear shop for his equipment, and in the shop he learns that he can sell most of the stuff that he got in the dungeons at very good prices. So he decides to fetch a few of them for sale. Meanwhile, Captain Tiger has a hard time sleeping because his eyes couldn't follow Jin Woo when he escaped. Because he saw Jin Woo when he first came out of the Red Gate, our poor captain thought he knew the limits of his strength, but now that he is much stronger than before, the thoughts of just how strong he could become honestly start to terrify him. After that, Jin Ho drives him to a safe entry point, and he enters into the flaming dungeon. As soon as he steps in, he gets his mission briefing, and this time our boy's way more prepared and gets ready to defeat the Demon King. Meanwhile though, trouble is brewing in Jin Ho's household. His father disowns him. However, while discussing with his wife, Jin Ho's father passes out, and when he wakes up, he's stuck in a hospital bed. And that's not the worst part. The doctor comes in and gives him bad news. He has symptoms of the eternal sleep disease, the same disease that has kept Jin Woo's mother asleep for 4 years. And while that's going down, humanity is about to face a whole new challenge, because an evolved monster ant just flew across the ocean, made its way to a human settlement. In the dungeon, Jin Woo sees that his shadows have started dying out of strange pattern. Using stealth, our boy investigates the cause, and he finds this sorry group of monsters with intelligence, and he puts the fear of God in them by killing them in one hit, and leaves their boss alive. After dancing with the boss for a bit, she quickly realizes that she cannot compare to Jin Woo, and surrenders, and introduces herself as Isil. But when she thinks Jin Woo has his guard down, she tries to attack him again, and a shadow protects him, and she begs again and begs for her life, and eventually Jin Woo agrees to spare her life and the life of her family if she gives him the key. Later, the Hunters Association reviews the damage done by the single evolved monster ant before it was eventually killed. The Hunters Association determines the strength of an ant is equivalent to an A-ranked hunter, and they alert Japan and the neighboring countries to join them in preparing for a raid to stop any more ant incidents. Jin Woo and Isil head to her father's castle, but the Dark King immediately spots Jin Woo's entire army lurking in Jin Woo's shadow. When he tries to attack, he explains the deal he reached with Isil, and knowing how weak and powerless he is, the king plays along and gives him the key. But Jin Woo won't leave without Isil because he doesn't want to waste any more time looking for the way out of a particular floor. In a matter of hours, our boy goes from the 80th to the 89th floor and is impressed by how strong Igris and the rest of his soldiers have become. Because get this, Igris is now as strong as an S-ranked hunter, and Isil warns Jin Woo that it would be dangerous to try fighting the monsters from the 90th floor upwards. But Jin Woo doesn't stop, and from the 90th floor on, the battle gets more intense. But Jin Woo manages to make it through. Zhongyi informs Hunter Cha Hae-in they've been chosen for the ant extermination exercise, which is called the Jeju Raid. Together with all the other S-ranked hunters in Korea, Japan's S-ranked hunters would also be helping out in the raid. Back in the dungeon, Jin Woo and Isil reach the 100th floor, and they're immediately greeted by Baran, the demon monarch. One look at him, Jin Woo can tell that this is going to be hard, and Baran isn't one to make a fight easy, so he summons more monsters to join the fight. And Jin Woo waits for the perfect moment and invokes his Shadow Monarch domain, bringing out his soldiers to join the fight. And Isil has a moment of crisis because she doesn't know who to support between Jin Woo the invader and Baran her monarch. Jin Woo protects Isil from Baran's attack before trying to attack the monarch with stealth. That doesn't work, and Jin Woo finds himself running away from a direct landing attack, and Tusk, one of his summons, saves him by using the Orb of Avarice and a fire spell to counter the lightning. With Tusk's help, Jin Woo manages to kill Baran's wyvern, and he thinks now that having Baran on the ground would even the odds, and he's about to find out how much of a mistake that is. The Korean Hunters Association meets up with a guild from Japan under the leadership of Goto Ryuji. They talk about their plan for the Jeju Raid, and Japan sends 10 S-rank hunters to support the fight. And although they're sending 10 strong fighters, they decide they want to be the decoy, while the hunters from Korea will go into the ant stronghold and kill the queen. Back at the 100th floor dungeon, Jin Woo and Baran start the battle in earnest, and Baran immediately shows why he's the boss, the top of 100 floors. He uses Jin Woo to wipe the ground so quickly that all his mana drains out, and he's just getting started. Jin Woo decides to face Baran head on, and they clash so fast that Isil can barely follow their movements, and Baran knocks off Jin Woo's dagger when Jin Woo gets caught lacking. But he manages to hold off Baran's finishing strike with his hands, and that's when Baran decides to melt off Jin Woo's head with a cannon, but Isil isn't having it, and despite how devious she was in the beginning, she's actually a pretty sweet little demon. She throws her sword at Baran, diverting his attention for just a second, and for Jin Woo that was more than enough. He activates his Dominator's Touch and rips Baran's 2 arms off of his body, and then with an uppercut, he knocks off Baran's head with a punch. Now this one I wasn't entirely sure that he would win, but of course he is the main character so he has to win, right? But what if we step into the shoes of the demons for a moment? Think about it, they're on their own, minding their business in their world, when this guy shows up with an army of shadows. So how do we defend ourselves? Well, the first mistake was caused by Isil's clan. We could really blame them for the death of the entire race. In the first place, as soon as Jin Woo entered the 80th floor, things got harder for him. After fighting for 2 whole days, he still couldn't figure out how he was to get to the next floor. The system wasn't helping, and if it didn't help in 2 days, the chances that it would have helped in 10 or 29 are low. So with this bit of info, one thing becomes obvious. There was absolutely no reason why Isil and her knights had to go in and join the battle. Their castle was hidden, and even if their castle was found, Jin Woo had no way of knowing that they had the key to the next stage. Meaning that after spending a few weeks searching endlessly for the key, our boy would have gotten tired of searching and gone back home. But instead of doing that, Isil opens her mouth and blabbed about it. So to beat Jin Woo, just keep Isil's freaking mouth shut. But if fate wasn't on their side, and Isil finds a way to blab, we only need to invoke part B. Since Jin Woo levels up by facing demons floor after floor, he wouldn't be strong enough to face Baran while he's still on the 92nd floor. So all we need to do, if I were Baran, would be to assemble my entire team of badass fighters from the 93rd floor and up, and go after the invader. It's moments like this would be the best time for all of the demon clan to set aside their differences, overcoming this threat that is Jin Woo. And with all the other high-level demons fighting a lower-level Jin Woo, they would have been able to defeat him. But if the fight really got to Baran's gate, in spite of all of it, Baran would still be able to come out on top. In addition to being a tough fight, Baran fought at a disadvantage. Although both Baran and Jin Woo could call soldiers to fight for them, Jin Woo made use of the ability to influence the fight in his favor. And if Baran had commanded some of the minions at his disposal to deal with Jin Woo together with him, the fight could have ended at a much different note. After defeating Baran, the system tells Jin Woo of all the perks he's gained, and by gaining the purified blood of the demon monarch, he now has all the items that he needs to craft the elixir of life, the only item that he believes can wake up his mom. And after successfully crafting it, Iron, one of his summons, brings him the dead body of the wyvern beast. Yeah, you know what comes next, and I love it also. Jin Woo raises the beast to life and acquires a personal flying object. With the elixir ready, he ditches Isil and uses his new skill to exchange his position from the dungeon with one of his shadows on patrol in the city. And then we see Captain Tiger going for a drink with his old hunter buddy, Byung-hoo. Despite being one of the strongest healers as an S rank, Byung-hoo is ready to retire, and Captain Tiger doesn't even try to recruit him, and they just talk about their friend who died at the hands of evolving ants. We then see Jin Woo get to his mother's room, and though his hand is shaking, he pours the elixir into his mom's mouth, and immediately it heals everything. But she doesn't wake up, her eyes don't open. In despair, a boy bows his head, and he takes a minute to wonder if all his hard work was for nothing. But then a warm breeze blows, and the moon shines its light on Jin Woo's mom. By the time he lifts up his face, his mom is awake and staring back at him, and she says two simple words, and our boy's hard exterior breaks into a puddle. When the hospital learns that an eternal slumber patient has woken up, they're ecstatic and want to run more tests. But when the doctor in charge learns that it is Sung Jin Woo's mom, he clears her immediately for her to be taken home. Jin Woo brings Jin-ah to see her mother, and as he stands in the shadows watching his baby sister cry and hug her mom, Jin Woo feels satisfaction for the first time since he became a hunter. The chairman announces the 4th Jeju raid and gives the public a rundown of their new plan. But when Byung-gu hears the plan, he starts having second thoughts. Meanwhile, Jin Woo and his family arrive to a very tattered house. Turns out Jin-ah has zero arranging skills. The trio share a family moment, and our super strong demon-killing S-rank hunter settles down a little bit to do the doors and wipe the TV. But when he gets a call from the Hunters Association, he quickly heads over, and the chairman gives him the briefing on the Jeju raid, hoping that he would get interested in assisting. But before he can answer, he feels a crazy magical wave. The chairman informs him the S-ranks going for the raid are having a friendly match, so he decides to go take a sneak peek. When they arrive, Captain Tiger is sparring with another guild captain. But when the Japanese hunters arrive, their interpreter is disappointed, and that makes the Night Guild's captain angry. Despite being in only A rank, he decides to respond to her, but Goto Ryuji interrupts and sets up a sparring contest between the S ranks of both countries. He tells them to set the rules however they like, because in his head there's no way his country's hunters can lose. Captain Tiger helps with setting up the rules and makes it a free-for-all instead of a one-on-one. With the rules set, the match commences. The free-for-all goes just like Gojo expected. The Japanese hunters take out 2 of the Korean guilds easily, but when Captain Tiger gets cornered by 2 hunters, Hunter Cha-hae-in finishes off her opponent quickly in order to go to his aid. But that's where things go wrong. While she's rushing towards him, she feels an enemy attack coming from behind her, so she reacts on instinct and bloodies up this dude's face. And although originally he was acting all scared, it turns out he has a split personality, because he rushes at Hunter Cha-hae-in, ready to tear her apart. And Jin Woo, who had been watching, steps in just in time to save Hunter Cha-hae-in. He then goes on to suppress the dude in one move, making Goto suspicious of our boy's true powers. And Goto decides to spar with Jin Woo, but Jin Woo only agrees on the condition that Goto would fight without holding back. Goto starts the battle abruptly, but instead of going on the offensive, Jin Woo thinks it's a bright idea to toy with him. So he dances around and weaves and bobs, and he's so good at evading that even Hunter Cha-hae-in gets impressed. But Goto is livid and not happy that Jin Woo is keeping up. He tries to stab him in the eye, but instead of grabbing his wrist to end the match, Jin Woo grabs his fingertips. They retreat and decide to get serious at the same time, but their teammates stop them because the building wouldn't survive. And that's when Jin Woo reveals that he has successfully snuck some of his soldiers into all of the S-ranked players' shadows without any of them noticing. After the battle, Jin Woo heads home to mom, and he decides not to join the Jeju raid because his mom just returned from 4 years of slumber. Now this decision is going to cost the team very badly. At the same time, on Jeju Island, the queen ant hatches an egg of a new hybrid ant that looks nothing like the other ants that have evolved before it, and then D-Day arrives, and all the hunters head to their different positions. Captain Tiger's eyes light up when he sees his friend Byung-hoo in his battle gear, feeling much better now that they're having an S-rank healer assisting. For the sake of the public, they also get an A-ranked media streamer to live stream the final showdown with the ants. The Japanese hunters turn on their Ryatsu type Kenpachi type crap, and this forces large hordes of ants to come right at them. And with that, they create enough of a diversion for the Korean strike team to rush towards the queen, but they'll have only 1 hour at most. Next up, they set up a network interference to stop the ants outside from communicating with the queen. Everything seems to be going fine for the Japanese group, but while their healer is messing around, her head is suddenly gone. Immediately after her, this muscle dude, his head suddenly lumps off too, and their third teammate realizes that everything has gone to crap. He tries to attack it, but his Bado Jutsu misses, and his head pays the price. Inside the ant cave, the Korean hunters face a stronger breed of ants. I mean, although these ants are as strong as S-ranked hunters, they're still just ants. The hunters team up and take care of business in groups. Captain Tiger uses his beast instincts to locate the ant queen and give his team a pep talk to keep fighting. But outside, Iceman here and his partner go to check on the other Japanese hunters, and when they find their body bodies, it's too late. Because whatever it was that killed their friends has set its eyes on them. The Korean team finally reaches the queen's lair, but they're greeted by a large army of ants. Despite the large number that went to fight the Japanese hunters, Hunter Jong-in uses his fire to roast some of the ants, while Captain Tigerman turns into full-on beast mode for the battle. The media guide continues streaming the whole thing, and all over Korea, everyone is watching, glued to their televisions, as the fourth raid continues, no one knowing that there's a real killer on the loose just outside the cave. The hunters defeat all the queen's guard and start a combo attack on the ant queen. Now the queen uses her poison mist on them, but Hunter Byung-hoo is here to heal them. One final attack, Hunter Cha-hae-in slashes off the queen's head, and before the queen falls in death, she lets out a weird cry, and immediately all the ants that left the cave to deal with the Japanese hunters start returning. But they're not the only ones that return when this black ant shows up. All the S-ranked Korean hunters can tell they are screwed. It ignores them and goes to the corpse of the queen. After mourning her for a few seconds, it turns around and one-shots all of our heroes in a matter of seconds. And they would have all been dead, but Byung-hoo is really good at his job. He uses a camouflage skill to keep himself hidden while treating them, but sadly, even camouflage is no match for this overpowered monster ant. It sees through the camouflage and pulls a Kakashi move on Byung-hoo's heart. The monster grabs Captain Tigerman and chokes him out of his beast form before telling him how weak he really is. The monster is looking for the king of humans because that is the only death that would equal the death of the ant queen. Fortunately though, he doesn't find any of the Korean hunters worthy, so he heads out to find the strongest hunter that he thinks is the king of the humans. Before the Korean hunters can leave, they find themselves surrounded by the ants that the queen called back, and now their situation is worse than ever. The hunters are gravely injured, unable to fight, and surrounded by the ants that have returned to their cave. Meanwhile, Goto finds his dead colleagues, and he calls the Japanese Hunters Association and gives them the situation report. You come to find out the Japanese Association doesn't tell Goto and company to go and rescue the Korean hunters from the influx of ants. Instead, he says, since the chances of Korea's S-rank surviving is next to nothing, Goto and the rest of his team should now pull back, because their real plan was to destroy the Korean Hunters Association. But while their conversation is going on, an ant monster shows up and cuts off one of their heads. Goto tells the other guy to leave and he faces off against the ant monster, but immediately he gets overwhelmed by the monstrous aura coming from the beast. Inside the cave, the S-ranked Korean hunters are about to be wiped out and everyone is on their last breath, but that's when a shadow stretches out like crazy, and out of it, shadow warriors pop out and start defending the S-ranked. Halfway across the country, Jin Woo stands on top of a building and says one word that everyone has been hoping to hear: exchange. Jin Woo switches places with one of his shadows and shows up right in the middle of the battle. He sends his soldiers to do the cleanup while he uses a potion to treat all the hunters. But Hunter Cha-hae-in is badly hurt, so they have to get her to a proper medic for treatment. Outside, the live broadcast gets cut off, and everyone is getting restless because they have no idea what's going on. Jin Woo decides to even the odds by resurrecting some of the dead ants to fight on his side, but he's a little worried about everyone seeing his true abilities. But before he can raise them up, all the ants suddenly clear a path. Boss Monster returns, disappointed for not finding Goto worthy, and Jin Woo walks right up to him. And at the same time, the live broadcast comes back, making Chairman Gung Ho break his seat in excitement. Jin Woo tanks a punch from the monster, but when he decides to return the favor, the monster guards itself. Not that it matters. They do get out and it turns into a slugfest, and the monster is surprised by how strong Jin Woo really is. And he's not alone either, because Captain Tiger can't figure out Jin Woo anymore. The fight goes on, but slowly and steadily, Jin Woo puts the fear of God into the ant. And when they're done fighting, the ant does what all ants do when they see humans. It tries to run away. Jin Woo uses his Dominator's touch to grab it and extinguish the life out of it once and for all. Okay, it's great that he showed up, but their lives would not have been in danger if they'd just done a few very simple things in the first place. If they actually wanted to win, seeing that he was able to keep up with Goto Ryuji, the chairman of the Hunters Association should have found a way to compel, bribe, I don't care, do whatever he has to get Jin Woo to follow them into battle. Yeah, really simple and kind of a dumb moment. But when you have someone as strong as him, you're not going to take a chance with a raid of this level of importance. If I were the chairman, I would have asked him what it would take to make him go into battle, irrespective of how bizarre a request he makes. I'm gonna say yes. I would put his family on hunter protection for the duration of the raid. Why? Because if Jin Woo had been with the party from the get-go, he probably would have finished the raid long ago, and none of them. And also, Japan never would have the opportunity to even think about taking over Korea and taking down the Korean Hunter Association. Because at the end of the day, despite Jin Woo's hard exterior, we know that our boy has a heart. We can use that to make him help us. Jin Woo rushes over to Hunter Cha-hae-in, but even the elixir elixir of life that he used on his mom doesn't work and makes our boy desperate. One of the shadows locates the body of Byung-hoo. Jin Woo immediately resurrects the Great S healer. Without any instruction, Byung-hoo heals Hunter Cha. But after the healing, Captain Tiger begs Jin Woo to release him because Byung-hoo never did like the battlefield. In the end, Jin Woo agrees and lets Byung-hoo rest in peace. The rest of the team heads out to a helicopter, but Jin Woo stays behind to finish cleaning up the rest of the ants. And of course, he resurrects the Ant King and names him Beirut. There he sends Beirut to do most of the cleanup on his behalf. When they get back, they hold a mass funeral for all the lives lost. Later, Jin Woo meets up with the chairman and tells him that he intends to form his own guild, but now there's even more trouble brewing in Jeju Island. When a group of hunters go to clear the island and retrieve magic jewels, they all get knocked out by this weird-looking monster dude and his icy-looking friend. After inspecting the area, they literally open gates and walk away. Behind the scenes, Yi Huan watches them without saying anything. Meanwhile, Jin Woo gets stuck in traffic because he decides to use a car when he can ride his dragon. He gets a call from the chairman that a gate has opened in the middle of the road, but as soon as he strolls into it, the gate turns into a red gate. Doesn't matter to our boy because he brings out his shadow army and clears the gate in a matter of minutes.